I got the push notification on my Fox Weather app. It says flash flood warning. Yes, so you've got parts of Miami-Dade and Broward counties on opposite sides of that flash flood emergency. Because of what we've seen, though, and what's happening farther back to the west, just know this is dangerous flash flooding that we're talking about. This whole swath, that's Alligator Alley, that's I-75 right there. And this corridor, as you move further off to the south down into the Everglades, we've got multiple flash flood warnings in effect. And more of this incredibly heavy rain, this torrential rain, is finding its way toward the coast. All the while, we've got more flooding reports coming in. All of those that you're seeing here along I-95 are all individual reports of flooding. This one coming in from North Miami, first time that we've seen this. A rescue, the fire department, Miami-Dade Fire Department, making a rescue from a home due to 3 to 4 feet of water finding its way into the home. So Brandy showed us some pictures from Hollywood of the roads completely swollen and flooding. Now it appears as though we're getting some reports of water into homes. That's the live picture from Brandy Campbell. She's in Hollywood, and you see folks driving around through all that and throwing a wake with some of the flooding that's occurred in these areas. So unfortunately, that's what it looks like right now. We're showing you the radar. All of this still has to find its way across South Florida and out into the Atlantic. This is going to be a dangerous stretch ahead. The flash flood emergency runs at least for another hour and a half or so, and we've got this pattern overall that hangs around through what's left of the week. So keep it here on Fox Weather. We're going to keep tracking these storms. We'll get you a full update when we come right back.
Broke until payday.
Well, diapers.
You initially some live pictures there. It's not clear what caused this or if anyone's hurt because the firefighters looks like trying to get some rest there in between, maybe changing out shifts there. But this all taking place at Strickland Drive at Chicago Avenue. It is shut down because of this. We have Atlanta News First Carly Barnett headed there right now on the ground. We hope to hear from her soon and bring you some live pictures from the ground as well.
And there's concerns for the firefighters themselves. It's 87 degrees outside. And if you've ever seen a firefighter work a fire, they have at least 20 to 25 pounds on their bodies, not to mention multiple layers of heat protecting type of clothing. So This issue is not only a problem for the building itself, but for the firefighters who are working the job. We'll have more on that story. The other big one that we're following, this is breaking right now. The reward for information on a missing 12-year-old girl now up to $30,000. Maria Gomez Perez has been missing for 2 weeks. She was last seen outside of her home on West Side Drive in Gainesville. Hull County authorities say their search for this child is ongoing. Sheriff Gerald Couch says he does consider Maria in danger, but no Amber Alert has been issued because there's little information about where she may be. They are asking anyone with information to please call 911. Today, survivors of the deadly mass shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary School became high school graduates.
The weight of what they went through heavy on those celebrations in Newtown, Connecticut. Laura Aguirre has the stories they're telling today.
We just heard popping and popping.
A guy armed came into my classroom and started shooting all of my friends and my teachers and my classmates. Gun had been jammed, and a friend of mine had yelled at us to run, and that's what we did.
Survivors of the mass shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary School are high school seniors graduating from Newtown High School in Connecticut. They were first graders in 2012. 20 of their classmates were killed, along with 6 faculty members. To date, it's the deadliest K-12 school shooting in U.S. history.
Our memories of elementary school are weirdly empty, like blocked out, massive parts of it.
Still, difficult memories and emotions.
When we lined up by grade, like half of our grade was missing, so that was really hard.
Many have found healing in the years since, balancing celebration with remembrance at this important milestone.
This is such a monumental day, and we all can feel what we've lost.
Parts of Broward County, too, up until 5:30. So, yeah, we're going to have to watch for these. I do want to get the motion of that. Dylan, what's the bulletin on that? These aren't moving all that quickly.
They're pretty slow, east at 20 miles per hour.
Okay. Yeah, Nick, we're watching this thunderstorm. That's part of the problem with the heavy rain rates. You were showing us on that camera 5 inches per hour. Storm's only moving about 20 miles per hour, which means they're hanging around these spots.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, literally, when it rains, it pours, right? So we've got a flood emergency and then a severe thunderstorm warning on top of it. And you have to think that this soil is super saturated, and in Florida, you've got soil that can handle a lot of rain, right? Unlike a lot of parts around the country. But with an event like this that's fairly rare, you even, you get a 35, 40 mile per hour wind, and that could do some damage, let alone severe thunderstorm warning criteria wind, which is 58 and above. And that could become a concern, right? That's where you're talking about. And I know there are a lot of palm trees here, which have a lot of bend and give in the wind, and they're designed for that. But you've got other things to worry about. Power lines, structures that could come down, and that could be a huge problem.
These are 3-hour estimated rain amounts, 5 to 8 inches plus. This is part of the equation. It isn't always how much rain down in Florida. You were talking about the sandy soil. It's how fast can the soil soak up that moisture, or are we going to see flash flooding like we have here? This is a combination of those two because of how much rain we've seen yesterday and today, but now these rain rates, 3, 4, 5 inches per hour.
Yeah, and believe it or not, if you'd been watching Fox Weather the last couple of days, we had all of that flooding in Sarasota. Big time drought situation there.
Severe drought. Huge,
right? And that's one of the only reasons why the flooding wasn't worse, because it was able to actually handle some of that rain and absorb it more quickly than in some parts of the country. But I'm afraid that this rain here might be coming down a little too quick, and then you throw the winds on top of that, and it's a serious issue.
Yeah, we still have all this at minimum still to come across the area. I know a lot of folks down in South Florida, Southwest Florida especially, were thrilled about this forecast, but I don't think they were thinking it was going to be this much rain this quickly.
Yeah, it's a little bit of an overproducer here. Let's talk about some of the storm reports that we've seen, and unfortunately, they're coming in pretty darn quickly here, as we've got that thunderstorm warning that we were just talking to you about there from Miami-Dade going until 5 o'clock. This is what it looks like here along the highway. It really looks like this lane here going very slow, as they should be. That rain coming down, there's likely some puddling and ponding out there on the roads, and obviously there's a lot that's going to be inundated in water. Look at all these disrupted flights. 50% of the flights right now there at the airport are disrupted. At Fort Lauderdale International Airport, I mean, that's a mess. 1 in every 2 people are dealing with a delayed or completely disrupted travel schedule. And so that's going to lead to likely mounting frustration. The rain now, just under 15 inches. Those rain rates actually there at Sunny Isles Beach, Florida, have come down.
Cause or really escalate the issue a little faster than normal. And I do want to say, I quickly pulled up Google Maps, and just further up the street, I'd say about 6 or 7 blocks, there is some rivers or creeks going through some of the neighborhoods. So if it's caused flooding this far down, maybe. There is bodies of water nearby, I will say that.
Yeah, of course, South Florida is kind of inland, some of those waterways, canals moving through. Brandy, I do have to ask you, because we were watching earlier and there was flash flood emergencies, but there were also maybe tornado warnings. Was it windy earlier where you were at there in South Florida?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so actually we were not out reporting when they did have those tornado warnings, and radar indicated tornadoes, but I will say there were several of them that happened back to back. Some of them actually, if you're familiar with the area, on Alligator Alley, pretty much the interstate that'll take you from the east coast of Florida to the west coast towards Fort Myers. So probably a very hectic situation for any drivers that happen to be on the interstate where that was happening. And then they also had some on the east coast along some of those coastal communities as well. But for my crew and I, no, we were not outside, I should say, when those warnings were ongoing.
All right, Brandy Campbell there, Fox Weather. We appreciate your time here on Live Now from Fox. Get dry, stay safe to both you and your photographer there on the ground in South Florida. We appreciate your time.
Of course.
All right, thank you again. All right, we're going to...
Staying in the 80s, going from the low 80s to the middle to the upper 80s eventually there. And unfortunately, it's day after day, round after round of showers and storms. And yeah, Ian, it does look like things will start to taper off a touch as we head into this weekend. But there's still some chances for rain right through the weekend and into next week, which is not what we want to see. We'd like to see it completely clear out for several days.
That looks like the rainy season proper until further notice. But that was wild to see the departure from average. Those were both deficits yesterday in Sarasota and Miami. Now they're surpluses, and tomorrow there'll be huge surpluses.
Yeah, they might even double. So that's something to be said.
Yeah, we've got some updates coming from the National Weather Service. I was actually just reading a report from the Department of Highways, too. Onto I-95, of course, is the biggest thoroughfare working its way through South Florida. Multiple on-ramps and off-ramps with some water on the roads there flooded. It looks like 151st Street, that's flooded. The ramp southbound, northbound at 135th. And this southern flash flood warning has now been extended in time. Parts of Miami-Dade and Broward counties now runs until 8 o'clock. So what they're seeing is rain that's not ending anytime soon.
And you know, when you see these reports come in from the National Weather Service, you look for strongly worded language, because they're a government agency and they don't want to create any kind of panic or fear-monger, but in all caps it says, seek higher ground, get off the roads. And when the National Weather Service uses language like that in vernacular, they mean business, right?
Yeah.
And so it seems like every camera that we're looking at, there is some standing water somewhere. And the simple fact that more heavy rain is coming on through means those areas will continue to see heavy rain, and the rain and the ponding will grow, and then new spots will develop. And so if you think your roads are okay now, or you're hearing that people can make it safely through parts of I-95, that likely won't be the case for much longer. So it's better to just stay inside, hedge your bets, and don't get behind the wheel if you don't have to.
Brandy was talking to that resident in Hollywood, and the long and the short of it is there are places down in Florida that just flood all the time when you have rain rates like this. This is far exceeding the threshold where we would see flooding like this occurring. When you look at 3-hour rain estimates, and we're looking at 8+ inches of rain in some of these areas after a soaking of 4, 5, 6 inches of rain in some of these areas yesterday. Of course there's going to be flooding, but then you look back at this, Nick, a part of it being the severe thunderstorm warning. Don't want to leave out the severe weather aspect of this, but that is just a lot of rain, so much so that the Weather Service was saying perhaps exceeding, at least instantaneously, 6 inches of rain per hour.
Unreal. There's also the tornado threat that's possible, and that typically would be the number one thing would be talking about.
Yeah.
But the flooding situation here is obviously the main headline. Now, when you diagnose this storm and you look at it, this is our velocity product. You're looking for bright red and bright green coming together, forming a little bit of a couplet or an S for some rotation. We're not seeing that. It looks like maybe straight line wind right now.
Yeah, there was some enhanced wind in through here, but yeah, that whole, you're getting some big wind gusts.
Right.
Any way you slice it as that moves in.
And that's likely the front, the leading edge of the heaviest rain, that storm pushing eastbound. And so it's the wind, it's the rain, it's the threat for some rotation, but mostly it's the rain. We're not going to lie here.
What's dangerous about this, too, is that if something was spinning, which we did see some rotation in there, broad rotation, you're not seeing that coming.
Good point.
There's zero visibility in torrential rain like that.
Totally rain wrapped, especially with tropical rain. You're not going to see much of anything coming your way. So it definitely is best to stay with us here on Fox Weather. We'll be your eyes. Just hang tight and keep watching us here.
Yeah, this is a bad situation clearly down in South Florida. It'll likely get worse with time as we move through the next few hours. That's a live picture coming out of Hollywood, Florida. Fox Weather's Brandy Campbell has been reporting on some of the flash flooding that's occurring there. The flash flood warnings have been extended in time for Florida. We'll watch this as it unfolds through the next several hours. Stay with us right here on Fox Weather.
things or not. Could there be another rate cut to help?
Streaming is king, but so are the prices. They go up, and what you can do about it.
Atlanta News First starts now with breaking news.
The first alert chopper over this apartment fire in Douglasville. You're looking at the Douglasville proper apartments. This is at Strickland Drive at Chicago Avenue. It is currently shut down as fire crews continue to try to douse out the hot spots. Atlanta News First has a crew arriving to the scene. We'll bring you a live report as soon as they arrive. And nearly an hour of uncertainty during a dangerous bus chase. Good afternoon, I'm Sean Gables.
And I'm Blair Miller. From Fulton to Gwinnett to DeKalb County, a hijacking not experienced in our hometowns in decades. Right now, the suspect, Joseph Greer, is in the Fulton County Jail. He faces more than 30 charges, including murder and kidnapping. Atlanta News First confirmed Greer is a convicted felon with 19 prior arrests.
The victim killed is Ernest Bird Jr. Bird died after getting shot in the leg. It was crash after crash and a lot of near misses. This stretched from I-85 before Jimmy Carter Boulevard all the way to Hugh Howell Road in DeKalb. And this bus, it barreled past cars as the bus drove in opposite lanes of traffic. Finally coming to a stop on Hugh Howell Road, where police carried the suspect away in cuffs. New at this hour, though, despite that suspect having his first court appearance in Fulton County, he will not be tried there.
Atlanta News First political reporter Doug Reardon is live outside the courthouse with the new information we just received on this in the last hour. Doug.
That's right. And despite Greer waiving his arraignment here at the courthouse earlier today, we now have learned that Fulton County will not be prosecuting this case at all. It is because one of their employees, the DA's office, was a rider on that bus that Greer allegedly hijacked yesterday, leading it on that high-speed chase, and they simply cannot move forward with prosecution. So they sent us a letter today, and I'm going to read you just a quick statement from that. They said, quote, "It has been determined that a victim/witness in this case is a current employee of the Office of the District Attorney for the Atlanta Judicial Circuit," unquote. So they are now instead sending this case to the Prosecuting Attorneys Council of Georgia to figure out what to do with it. Legal experts told us today, and multiple of them, that because the chase went through both Gwinnett and DeKalb County jurisdiction, so assuming they don't have any conflicts similar to Fulton, it will likely be prosecuted in one of those two counties. Now, I did reach out to the PAC for comment, as well as both of those district attorneys' offices. We have not heard back as of tonight, but we'll continue to follow this up and see where this case is. We're in downtown Atlanta. Doug Reardon, Atlanta News First.
A story of heroism from the words of a daughter. Karen's father's Ernst Antoine. He was the driver of that Gwinnett transit bus. Coming up live at 5, Karen talks about her father's bravery. Atlanta News First was the first to bring you this breaking story here yesterday, both on air and online, with real-time safety alerts for you. Our free app can always keep you in the know.
Let's turn our attention now to First Alert Meteorologist Pat. Please, Pat.
Tow truck. So this could be one of those, or likely is turning into one of those situations where a lot of vehicles are going to be left stranded because of the flooded areas. So again, just showing you where we are here in Hollywood, Florida. The rain has been non-stop, and now we're starting to hear an uptick of thunder. You guys, you might be able to hear it while I'm speaking as well. So if you're out here, we're gonna go ahead and head in the car soon, because I'm starting to see some lightning up in the sky as well. Ian?
Yeah, Brandy, go ahead and get to safety, as you do have some powerful storms moving in, the leading edge of what we're concerned about with the severe thunderstorm warning. That's Fox Weather's Brandy Campbell. Thank you for the report. We're taking a look at some of the additional storm reports coming in from these areas. Places like Morningside Park, that's just off to the north and east of Miami's Design District. Yeah, there's reports of 12 to as much as 18 inches of water on the ground. That's a lookout from Miami-Dade County. That tells you everything you need to know. Looking out toward 511, big flash of lightning and visibility, which is effectively nothing. And also keep in mind, we're at 434. A lot of folks toward the tail end of their workday trying to get home. Not only has this been an especially dangerous afternoon of flooding, there's a severe thunderstorm warning in effect for these same places, and the worst of that storm is moving in. So yeah, you've got this where we're going from a light to moderate rain to all of a sudden back into torrential rain. That is likely a big gust of wind just off to the east of Tamiami and finding its way into Miami proper and places like Coral Gables, the U in the mix here, and eventually out toward Miami Beach. This is very heavy rain with some big wind gusts to go along with it. But yeah, in this whole zone, part of it included within that severe thunderstorm warning, you've got these flash flood warnings, all of which have been extended in time. Look at the rain rates. Dylan's populating those right behind me in Weather Command, up over 5 inches of rain, and that portion of the thunderstorm isn't even in the flash flood warning yet. It's producing rain rates over 5 inches of rain per hour, and it's entering a zone that's already recorded in the last 3 hours, 5 to 8 inches of rain. Brandy showed us some scenes of flooding. We've seen the reports of flooding from across the metro area. This and through here, that's what the Weather Service is calling a particularly dangerous situation. It has this catastrophic tag on it now. Weather Service saves that in a flash flood emergency scenario for when there's a threat to life and property. That's already been playing out, but the issue is this gets worse for a period of time as we move forward through at least the next few hours. And you could see that just eyeballing it on radar, what's back to the west out in the Everglades that still has to find its way through. We've got Fox Weather's Nick Koser with us. Nick, huge amounts of rain already. All the while, you've got in the short term this, and then we have to see what happens with all this farther back to the west.
Yeah, not one, but 2 more rounds for sure on the way in, and maybe some more after that. Again, I mentioned this last hour. I'll mention it again. I was in Florida just last week.
It was crispy.
It was beautiful,
super dry.
Very dry, sunny every day, all day. I did get caught when I first landed coming from Tampa to Sarasota. I was on the western edge of the state, but that's where they also got some heavy rain. I got caught in a real quick downpour. And when I tell you that visibility went from perfect to 0 quickly, and I mean, if you don't have proper windshield wipers, if you don't have tires that are almost brand new, you're in a world of hurt.
Florida downpours are something different.
Absolutely.
And this is even a step above what would be considered a regular Florida downpour.
That's right. If your car isn't in tip-top shape, you really shouldn't be out there trying to do anything in these types of conditions. And that goes right through 8 o'clock and maybe even beyond that, because you know there's going to be heavy rain and puddling and ponding and flooding everywhere.
That's why the Weather Service is just saying get off the roads.
Right.
If you don't have to be out in this, there is absolutely no reason to be.
That's right. All right, well, let's go ahead and take a peek at what we can expect in terms of the timing with this. As we know, at least through 8 o'clock, that things are going to be very intense with the rain. We'll take a peek back here at sunny Isles Beach, Florida. This is where we're at here with the locating pin. And so we keep showing you this to give you some perspective on what's going on. Rain rate has dropped. The amount of rain, though, stays around that 15-inch mark. And there is a bit of a lull here on radar. So the heavy rain that we just saw move through is now kicking east. But like Ian said, we've got that real nasty batch of rain that's about to come right back in. So unfortunately, I think those numbers are all going to go up. The rain rate, the rain total, the wind, as this will take us through tomorrow morning, and maybe, again, some lulls early in the morning, but as that heat, humidity, and all that moisture continue to build and rise in, we've got waves of rain that will continue to show up through tomorrow into Friday, and then it'll back off a touch this weekend, but still, right through Sunday, the raindrops are going to continue to pile up. So the heaviest from Fort Myers to Naples over to Miami and Fort Lauderdale, the areas that have already been hardest hit, 5 to 8 inches. And you know how these graphs work. Typically, you'll see locally higher amounts. So while there will be a large swath of 5 to 8 in a certain area, some spots just dotting the map will get 9, 10 inches locally. And so that's the scary part of this forecast as we move forward. The flood watch, the emergency, all of that going through 8 o'clock tonight. And there is your flood emergency right there. And all of this extends back over towards the west coast and the Gulf Coast side of the peninsula. 83, 84, 85, and then we're...
Nothing left of this. You can see firefighters that are still pouring water on it, smoke billowing into the air. I know you can't smell through the TV, but the smell of smoke right now is so powerful. There are so many residents here just standing, watching their homes burn. At this point, we still have a lot of questions. We don't know exactly how many people are displaced. We don't know how many injuries there are or the extent of, but we do know this has been taking place now for at least the last 2 hours. There is a response out here as firefighters are working to knock down those flames. You can see no flames that we can see from this vantage point, but a lot of smoke filling the air right now as they continue to tackle this fire. And something to keep in mind, Strickland Drive at Chicago Avenue temporarily closed while the firefighters continue to do their jobs. This is the Douglasville proper apartment. And we hope that you will continue to check back with us here on Atlanta News First, both on air and online. I'm gathering more information now, and we will bring that to you live. But for now.
All right, Carly Burnett reporting for us tonight. What is your favorite streaming service? Besides Atlanta News First Plus.
Exactly. Well, whether it's Disney for the family or Netflix for your favorite binge.
Which, by the way, inland spots, that's another flash flood warning that was issued. That runs until 8 o'clock later on this evening, too. So effectively, the Miami, Fort Lauderdale metro area, Miami-Dade and Broward, most of the area is under either a flash flood warning or a flash flood emergency. Northern parts of Dade into southern parts of Broward, where you have that pink box. That's where we've seen the most rain, but all of these areas have featured a dangerous amount, and we've got life-threatening flooding over the next several hours as more of this rain continues to crash in. This is all tropical moisture, and it's why we talk about the hazards of considering tropical moisture. Oftentimes, you don't need the structure of a tropical system to help focus tropical moisture like this. You just need the right setup, and in this case, we had that. Low pressure farther off to the south and west, a bit of a gyre developing down towards Central America. You've got high pressure offshore, and those two features are helping pump up moisture and feed into this disturbance. Yeah, a broad area of low pressure that the National Hurricane Center has been watching. There isn't much to it in terms of structure at all. It's just this big blob of moisture, which is increasingly dangerous, very problematic down in South Florida, so much so. This doesn't include what happened yesterday, which was a lot of rain and flooding. This is radar estimated totals from the past 6 hours. Look at that, just east and close to I-95, 10¼ inches of rain in 6 hours' time. That can only happen if you have bona fide tropical moisture to work with, and clearly we do this go around. It's generating catastrophic flash flooding in these zones. You look at what's still to come back across parts of the Everglades. There is still plenty of heavy rain in the forecast. This has to work through as we find our way through the next few hours, and that's why those flash flood warnings have been extended until at least 8 p.m. this evening. Well, we've got a live look for you at Oakland Park in Florida. I-95 South is closed from Oakland Park Boulevard through Fort Lauderdale into Dania Beach. Traffic is being allowed back onto I-95 in Dania Park. So look at how slow going it is. A dangerous situation out on the roads. Keep the Fox weather app handy. I know a lot of folks are out at work. You're trying to find a way to get home safely in all of this flooding and more of the heavy rain moving in. If you don't have to travel in South Florida this evening, please do not. We're watching more of that heavy rain moving in. We'll keep you updated right here on Fox Weather.
where firefighters are still very busy right now putting out hot spots. We were talking to our Carly Barnett here just a few minutes ago, and she said people outside were just watching, and it's not clear how many people have been displaced as a result of this fire. But we know this is happening at Strickland Drive at Chicago Avenue, and it's shut down because of this, so those first responders can deal with what they need to do. We will touch base with Carly coming up here at 5 o'clock and get the latest from the scene there on the ground. Dining out could be busting your budget. That's because the cost of going out
in South Florida, parts of Miami-Dade and Broward counties. This is a live picture from Oakland Park, Florida, looking out at the traffic. Again, this is right at the end of the workday. Folks are trying to get home, and unfortunately, not only are there flash flood warnings and a flash flood emergency in effect in Miami proper right now, you have a severe thunderstorm warning that's in effect, and the most dangerous part of that storm is moving in right now, in through here, in between Miami and North Miami. This is going to be moving out toward the beaches, out toward Miami Beach at about 20 miles per hour. Fox Weather Alert System is on the right side of your screen, and it's lit up. We do have a new severe thunderstorm watch. We had talked about the upper Midwest. We've got severe weather potential playing out later on this evening there, and even some isolated severe thunderstorm warnings. But the focus in the short term has been on a catastrophic flooding situation down in South Florida. A flash flood emergency, meaning that life-threatening flash flooding is occurring. This entire zone and through here has a warning that runs until at least 8 o'clock this evening. And the reason for that, if you were with us on Fox Weather Now yesterday, we were tracking heavy rain and flash flooding. This is day 2. It's far worse than what we saw play out yesterday, and the radar estimates tell us that. Dylan, right behind me in Weather Command, has been keeping an eye on this. You see some of this dark red. These are 6-hour rain estimates, so we're not talking about a lot of time, and in some places, we're approaching double-digit rain totals, 9.7 inches of rain already. You look at Doppler radar with what's moving in from the west and southwest, this has been the problem over the last several hours, backbuilding of these storms. Heavy rain out over the Everglades that still needs to find its way through. I mean, look at this complex of storms in through here. That needs to sweep through, and some of these have been containing downpours, 2, 3, 4 inches of rain plus per hour. We've got Fox Weather's Kiana Lewis back with us, and Kiana, you and I were tracking something that looked like this yesterday. This is far worse, yes, but the cumulative effect of both days is clearly adding to the trouble.
Absolutely. It's almost like adding insult to injury at this point. We saw a lot of rain yesterday. We're seeing these totals pile up once again today, Ian. And the timing, unfortunately, will take us through tonight and into tomorrow. So more rain, unfortunately, will be adding more insult to injury in these areas. When we look at Miami-Dade right now, a bit of a parking lot here on one of the local interstates, 511, but this is going to be what we're going to see through tonight and even maybe again possibly tomorrow. We do have a couple of inches that are going to continue to pour over these areas. Sunny Isles, for example, continuing to see the rain pummel this area too. That's where we do have that emergency, flash flooding emergency that's in place along the I-95 corridor. At this point, 2 inches of rain per hour are the rainfall rates that are falling. Through the latter half of tonight and into the overnight hours, we're still going to keep a close eye on southeastern portions of Florida, as well as back towards the Keys, too. We're going to be watching these areas for some more heavier storms that are going to be moving throughout the region. Maybe they start to break up into tomorrow. Again, we do have another day where we could see more scattered rain in nature, more scattered thunderstorms that can add a couple more inches to these totals before we really start to see things calm down as we head into Friday. Still a bit of a mess with that front that's just kind of stationary over the peninsula, at least through the course of Friday. By Saturday, I think we finally see things come to an end. That being said, these are some of the totals that are still to come. We have a couple of inches here, darker shadings of orange, 5 to 8 inches from Fort Myers down through Naples, back towards Fort Lauderdale, just north of Miami. The peninsula itself could see up to 3 to 5 inches of rain. You head a little farther to the north, that's where we see some of those totals kind of taper off. Orlando back towards Tampa, 1 to 2, maybe 2 to 3 inches of rain there. But for the areas that have already, 1, experienced some extreme flooding, 2, is still experiencing that, we still have to watch for these flash flood watches that remain in place through Thursday. We're going to look at some of those areas, see, as I mentioned, 3 to 5 inches of rain and on top of what we've already experienced, that being Naples back towards Fort Lauderdale, Miami, that zone in general up towards Hollywood, Florida. has been getting some significant flooding. That's why we still have that emergency in place until 8 p.m. Next couple of days in Miami, this is what it kind of looks like. So a bit of a rainy into the week, and even some rain showers to begin next week. The storms will take us right through Saturday. Maybe by Sunday we have more scattered thunderstorms in place, rounding out the weekend, more Florida-like per se, and then we have those showers that linger into next week too. Fort Myers, the same goes for you. Thunderstorms almost each and every day this week. The warmer we get, the more instability that's going to be over the areas too. So for an area like Fort Myers, we could see some significant thunderstorms in place. When we look at the alert system, we also are looking at still a couple of warnings that are in place. This is a new warning, this severe thunderstorm warning for Miami-Dade, Florida. That's until 5 p.m. Eastern time. Note that that is just to the south of where we have our flash flood emergency in place. So we're looking at more information that's coming in, Ian, at this point in time. We're continuing to watch things unfold throughout parts of Florida. You're looking at some of the details coming in with this new severe thunderstorm warning that's in place. Any highlights on how much rain that's coming through with the rainfall rates for this one?
The worst of the severe thunderstorm warning is just back to the west of downtown Miami. We're looking out with a live picture toward the Casilla Center where the Heat play, formerly the AA, the American Airlines. Looking out toward the cruise terminal too. If maybe you've been down to Miami, if you don't live there, you go over the causeway that takes you out towards Miami Beach, where the cruise port is. That might be one of the big new ships too. That's right back there. But you look at the radar here, that's the most dangerous part of that severe thunderstorm warning, and that's where the rain rates that we've measured within the storm, they're up around 5 inches of rain per hour.
Yeah, they're totaling up pretty high, and then it's no question why we do have, again, the emergency just to the north of this new severe thunderstorm warning, which is also coupled with the flash flood warning. A lot of rain that has been pushing through, and it's also been backfilled with more storms that, as you can see, a lot of red on the radar pulling in more moisture across some of these areas.
Yeah, the National Weather Service office down there in South Florida has issued 7 flash flood warnings today, one of which is the flash flood emergency. We're watching what's happening upstream of all this, and it's going to be very difficult to dodge more of this heavy rain. I mean, we've got this complex of storms, especially intense out over the Everglades, and this is lifting. It appears as though this is moving more or less due east, but this corridor extends all the way up to I-75, Alligator Alley. All of that is moving directly towards the areas that have been hit hardest so far today.
Oh, right, and all of this rain has to go somewhere, right? Thankfully, as it pushes over areas like Miami, Fort Lauderdale, it's running out of real estate, but it is those areas that are most vulnerable at this point in time. And we looked at the bigger picture back a little bit farther towards the west. We still have storms, as you mentioned, pulling into these same directions. Looking at some of these rainfall rates, this one in particular popping up nearly 4 inches of rain per hour.
Yeah, we were watching this time yesterday, and we were saying, hey, the Fox model kind of looks like the radar looks right now for tomorrow. That's played out, but unfortunately, pockets of this rain have been so enhanced by the tropical moisture that we've seen totals like this. This is 8+ inches of rain in 6 hours' time.
Wild. And we still have a couple more days of this to get through. So like we've been saying, although we have been seeing impressive totals today alone, we could see this play out maybe 1 or 2 more times between today and into tomorrow.
Yeah, let's use a little bit of this time to talk about what's coming in the short term. I do want to show, Dylan, if we can, the Fox model moving forward through the next few hours to talk about when this could break up a bit. I mean, this is working through the latter portion of this evening into the overnight. You've got that tail of moisture, which is, that's the invest that eventually finds its way out into the Atlantic, maybe has an easier time getting some structure. That was the point, though. Structure doesn't matter. This is tropical moisture doing what tropical moisture does.
Yeah, that was the message that we were, alluding to earlier in the week. It didn't matter if this became a tropical depression or had any tropical name attached to it. It was still going to be delivering tropical moisture and flooding concerns like this.
So this is the forecast for rain still to come. This has nothing to do with what we've recorded already, which in some areas is a foot plus of rain this week or today in some spots. This orange and red indicating, Kiana, we could see many folks half a foot plus of rain still to go on top of all this.
Yeah, looking at Miami, for example, I mean, up to 8 inches of rain taking us at least through the weekend. Remember there, the ground, the soil is already saturated. We're seeing this play out right before our eyes. So certainly going to be keeping a close eye on them.
Yeah, there's flooding occurring right now, catastrophic flooding. Dangerous setup moving through the next several hours. Keep it right here with us on Fox Weather. We'll keep you updated.
are now smoldering as fire crews work to save what's left of this apartment complex. This is live video from the scene along Chicago Avenue. Firefighters have not named the cause of the fire or if anyone was hurt, but there are road closures in the area that could quickly congest traffic.
Score first alert weather days. It could soon feel like it's in the triple digits.
Live at 5, the wild rush hour bus chase. We now know how a gun ended up in the hands of the hijacking suspect.
The passenger shot and killed, just identified.
Family reveals how the bus driver held at gunpoint is doing tonight.
And the intense ending. DeKalb's tactical team walks us through how they stopped the chase.
You're watching Atlanta's only locally owned station. Live at 5 starts now on Atlanta News First.
Live at 5 across Atlanta tonight, we are all still reeling after watching the fallout of this deadly bus hijacking. One passenger on board that bus killed after he was shot. I'm Tracy Hutchins.
And I'm Alan Devlin. The suspect now in jail and charged with murder. The chase started right there in downtown Atlanta and went up Interstate 85 in Gwinnett County, then turned down Jimmy Carter Boulevard in DeKalb County. It stopped on Hugh Howell Road in Tucker after authorities say a trooper shot the engine of the bus.
And that's when 39-year-old Joseph Greer was arrested. Of him there on the street. Atlanta News First brought you the tense moments live on the air. And tonight, new perspective on what happened right before the chase.
Atlanta News First Patrick Quinn live at 5 where that chase started in downtown Atlanta. Patrick, what happened on board the bus that really just took a turn?
Today, Alan, we learned a lot about those initial moments. Today, police said 39-year-old Joseph Greer right here at Ivan Allen Jr. Boulevard in downtown Atlanta. Police said he did not have a gun when he boarded that bus. Greer told us the exact same thing. Police say that when he got on the bus, Greer allegedly took a gun from a passenger and killed one passenger on board before directing the driver up 85 North. Now, moments before he boarded that bus, we in fact interviewed 39-year-old Joseph Greer 0.3 miles away. This all happened just by happenstance, and this is Joseph Greer, 39-year-old bus hijacking suspect. He told us he witnessed the quadruple shooting at the Peachtree Center food court that happened earlier yesterday. He told us he was bipolar and was in a manic state. Here is a small portion of that interview. We are sharing it with you to give you a sense of his state of mind before he boarded the Gwinnett County bus.
So, I'm in a manic episode where you're almost about to get in trouble because you're so screaming erratic. We need some type of pill or a drink or something that we can make from the drug people that can shock me real quick to get back regular. So right now I'm in an extreme mode.
And that was just a few moments of that interview with bus hijacking suspect Joseph Greer. You heard he was in a manic state. Now, we got an update today from Atlanta leaders, and Chief Darren Shearbaum of the Atlanta Police Department, he stressed he does not believe that Greer in any way is connected to the Peachtree Center shooting. He was there just. Mayor Andre Dickens said he listened to all of the 911 call of the bus going up 85 North. He believes that Greer was in a mental state, and that state had an impact on his actions. In downtown Atlanta, Patrick Quinn, Atlanta News First.
Tonight, a hero of that bus hijacking now recovering. The family of the Gwinnett Transit bus driver held at gunpoint says he is shaken up, but he is doing okay. Atlanta News First, Yasmina Alston live at 5 at the Gwinnett County Transit bus yard in Norcross. And Yasmina, this man was behind the wheel of that bus as it all unfolded, and he was able to keep his cool. Yeah, an incredible story here.
Really incredible. Ernst Antoine has been driving buses for over 20 years, but he never imagined the ride that he was in for when he left this bus yard on Tuesday afternoon, heading to downtown Atlanta for his last ride of the day. Antoine is physically okay today, but did sustain some bruises. Accused gunman held Antoine and his passengers hostage, then led them on a chase from Atlanta into DeKalb County. Antoine's daughter, Karen, says her dad describes just driving as he was held at gunpoint. The longtime driver's main concern was keeping everyone on the bus and on the roads as safe as possible. Antoine says he pushed the emergency button on the bus, turned the cameras on, and did what he was told.
Just driving. That's all he could do, yeah. And he couldn't stop. Like, literally, the gun was pointed at his head. I think he threatened him over 4 different times if he stopped.
And Antoine is also a pastor and works to try and stop gun violence. Now, while he will be taking a break from this job here, he will continue to work to try and stop the violence. Live in Gwinnett County, Yasmina Alston, Atlanta News First.
We can tell he did everything he could possibly do during that hijacking yesterday. Yasmina, thank you. Well, Atlanta News First crews have just spoken with a teenager who saw the bus hijacking end in front of his home.
Intense moments, and we'll give you his full account every step of the way. That's coming up ahead at 5:30. But first, here live at 5, the First Alert Weather Team tracking rising temperatures the rest of the work week. Chief Meteorologist Jennifer Valdez has 2 First Alert Weather Days. She's standing next to a whole bunch. Oh, 3. I'm sorry, 3.
First Alert Weather Days.
And you got some 90s there for us, too.
Yeah, 2, as if 2 wasn't bad enough, Alan. We had to add a 3rd one to the mix. Temperatures in the mid to upper 90s. That is why. Thankfully, the humidity is not going to be incredibly high, but we'll be dealing with some humidity as well, especially by the end of the weekend into next week. But as you can see, lots of 90s in the forecast. We'll be in the 90s tomorrow all the way through at least the beginning to middle of next week. Right now, we do have some clouds. That's helping in the upper 80s instead of the 90s. Tomorrow, we'll see more sunshine and more heat. Right now, it is 87 degrees. Humidity, not bad, 37%. Humidity is going to stay where it is for the most part of the days as the temperatures heat up. For tonight, we will drop to the low 70s and upper 60s, so it stays mild tonight. Then by the afternoon, we'll warm to the 90s. This is just the first 90-degree day out of many in that 7-day forecast. We'll show you exactly how hot it will get and how hot it will feel this holiday weekend coming up.
Now, live at 5, police say a convicted felon is suspected of shooting at least 3 people at a busy downtown food court. Tonight, he sits in the Fulton County Jail while one victim is bravely speaking exclusively to Atlanta News First about her terrifying experience.
Police are now hailing the off-duty officer who took Malone, saving others in yesterday's large early afternoon crowd. Atlanta News First Rachel Aragon live at 5 outside of the Peachtree Center food court where this all went down yesterday. Rachel, we can't imagine what this victim's going through.
Yet earlier today, I spoke with one of those victims. Her name is Deborah Hardy. She has lived in Atlanta for over 40 years, and she was shot in the leg and now out of the hospital. And the best part, she is in good spirits. Take a look here. Earlier, we spoke to her. She said she and her sister, Donna Hardy, were taking their 3-year-old niece to Centennial Park. She says they hungry and stopped by the Peachtree Center Mall's food court. When they entered, that's when she said she saw some commotion, but never anticipated being in the line of fire. She said her and her sister got shot. Deborah says she didn't even realize she was initially shot because she said her and her sister's focus was protecting their young niece.
It is traumatic, really. At that moment, I didn't get upset. I was just concerned about my niece. I wanted her out of the line of fire. She's 3 years old and just starting her life. I didn't want her to get hurt at all.
And luckily, that young girl did not get hurt. Deborah also stressing that her sister, again, Donna, is also doing okay and recovering well right now. We should also mention a 47-year-old man was also shot in yesterday's shooting here in downtown Atlanta. He's also expected to be okay. Live in downtown Atlanta, Rachel Aragon, Atlanta News First.
I feel like we are in an area we cannot pass through. We're going to
Fighters hard work right now on a fire that quickly complex this 20 miles west of Atlanta. Atlanta News First Carly Barnett live at 5 on scene in Douglasville for us. Carly, some pretty serious devastation tonight. Is there anything that's left?
Alan, unfortunately, what we're looking at right now is a total loss of this apartment building. Atlanta News First on the scene today in Douglas County. I'm going to step out of the way because you can see firefighters hard at work. I actually just spoke with Douglas County Fire Chief Miles Allen, who tells us this building is a total loss. At this point, we know 3 people were injured. We have just received word that 2 adults were to a hospital in Douglas County. 1 minor was taken to a hospital in Cobb County. At this point, the extent of those injuries is unknown. We want to show you exactly where we are talking about right now in Douglas County. We're looking at the Douglasville proper apartments. We are told that they initially got that call around 2:45 this afternoon. You can see what they're doing on the ground. We'll give you a look at from above where smoke was just billowing into the air. Right we're focusing on is those hot spots. I asked the fire chief, how long did it take you all to knock down the flames? He said, well, that's exactly what we're still doing right now. They're mopping it up, as he put it. And so we still have fire crews out here actively working. He also wanted to point out Paulding, Carroll, Cobb counties all assisted, as well as South Fulton and Austell. So a serious response to this apartment fire. We're going to continue to stay on top of this and find out more about the injuries that those people sustained. County, Carly Barnett, Atlanta News First.
This video shows the 39-year-old at the scene of the Peachtree Center shooting downtown Tuesday. Investigators say the incidents are unrelated, but shortly afterwards, Greer got on the bus. A high-speed chase and shooting that took the life of Ernest Byrd Jr.
My heart goes out to the other family, but it could have been so much worse. I mean, because there were 17 people on that bus. Suppose all of them got shot or killed. You know, I don't know what his mental state was about.
A lot of families reeling from this very violent and horrifying experience. Of course, the family of the victim who was shot and killed, Ernest Byrd Jr. Police say he was shot and killed with his own gun after he got into a confrontation with Greer on the bus.
Yeah, Brittany, we all couldn't believe what we were witnessing when this was all unfolding yesterday. You've been on this story all day long, and you also spoke exclusively with the wife of that bus driver.
Yeah, Tom, Ernst Antoine, is the name of the man who was behind the wheel during that high-speed, very terrifying chase that ensued across multiple jurisdictions with police. I spoke with his wife of 32 years who described him as a family man, a man of God. She says that he is also a pastor and does a lot of work here in the community and gives back as much as he can. She says when she caught up with him at the hospital, he revealed what some of those experiences were like inside the bus. He told her that at one point a gun was pointed at his head and he was commanded to, quote, keep driving. And at another point, he told her that the gun was wedged tightly against his leg as that high-speed chase with police ensured. She says that even with his life on the line, though, he focused on swerving and also, of course, doing quick maneuvers with that giant bus to try and avoid cars on the road.
He was ready to die, but he wants the people in the bus to be saved. And also, he was doing all those shaving because he doesn't want to hurt anybody on the street, those cars. So it touched my heart.
Coming up in the next hour, we'll have more details on how he is doing just ahead. Reporting live in Gwinnett County, Brittany Edney, Fox 5 News.
Yeah, you're really all right. Thank you so much for that report here on Live Now from Fox. We were watching it very, very closely unfold before our eyes. We didn't have a ton of information yesterday, but now we're learning more about what led up to that and who was behind the wheel of that bus during that high-speed chase throughout several counties there around Atlanta Metro. I'm Andy Mack. We're back after this.
There is a storm coming, an event like the world has never seen before. The emerging event will have little to do with weather, but more about developing situations that were foreseen many years ago. We have always warned you during severe weather and news events that affected many. Now, Channel 1 Atlanta begins a new series to warn you about what's coming soon and make sure you are prepared. Join us on a new journey, as according to a recent survey, a lot of people believe we are living in the last days. Current news events show us now more than ever. In history, time is setting the stage for the coming storm. A new series, now playing only on Channel 1 Atlanta.
Again, a confirmed tornado on the ground in downtown Conyers. This is a very dangerous and life-threatening weather event. Get into the interior section of your house, away from windows or a basement if you have. And there's the debris right there in the Millstead area near the Rockdale Medical Center. Right. Channel 1 Atlanta.
Of that hostage rescue yesterday.
The call came quickly.
We were given an alert over the Special Operations Channel that there was a high-speed pursuit involving a hostage situation with a...
In minutes, the bus had moved from Atlanta into DeKalb County, and DeKalb County SWAT was ready.
We conduct hostage rescue training vigorously to hostage rescue on a bus or linear assault.
The hijacked bus carrying multiple hostages had already careened through traffic, crashing through cars and avoiding law enforcement.
When the bus slowed down below 10 miles an hour and was pulling to the right side of the road, it was a window of opportunity to ensure the bus did not go mobile again.
NPO Deshaun Thomas was driving a tactical vehicle called the Bearcat and swerved in front of the bus.
I was able to get in front, turn it around, and then get directly in front of us. The bus was moving slow at that time, so I felt comfortable with got to the bus safely was really my only concern.
Officer Maxwell Buchanan McGrath was one of those operators. He came into contact with the victim as he approached the bus's front door.
Was suffering from a gunshot wound to his left leg, so then I applied to stop and slow the bleeding.
All while hostages were streaming out. Rapier says the whole situation, from call to stop, only took about 15 minutes.
You really don't feel the fear while you're doing it. That usually comes.
Now they're dealing with a word that will last much longer than that.
I'm not a hero. I was a supervisor on scene and out there with my guys. I mean, we did our job.
At DeKalb County Police Headquarters, Joshua Skinner, Atlanta News First.
An Arizona man now facing federal charges for allegedly planning a mass shooting here in Atlanta. The indictment alleges Mark Prieto planned to commit a mass shooting of African Americans and other minorities at a concert in Atlanta held back in May. The 58-year-old allegedly told two people secretly working with the FBI about his plan to, quote, incite a race war before the 2024 presidential election. He was indicted for multiple federal charges.
Getting cash back into your wallet is about to be as easy as riding a bike. The City of Atlanta and Atlanta Regional Commission are launching an e-bike rebate program this Sunday. In January, and income-qualified individuals can get anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000 back.
Fox Weather's Kiana Lewis with us. Kiana, you and I were tracking rain in the same places yesterday. This has been far and away worse than yesterday, but the issue is that these spots were already a little bit more vulnerable after what played out yesterday.
They really were. We saw significant rain totals yesterday, now looking at significant totals, if not worse, today. And then we still have this influx of moisture coming in from Southwest Florida that's going to aim towards areas like Miami and Fort Lauderdale for tonight. So the next couple of hours are going to be very interesting. We've already been seeing some pretty interesting reports coming in, Ian. I've been watching those very closely with Dylan. We have been watching areas continuously see flooding. We're talking about airports that are looking at ground delays at this point. So every kind of corner of Florida at this point is dealing with some type of moisture that's slowing folks down. Looking at this interstate here, looking like a parking lot with the oncoming traffic, offgoing traffic looks to be okay at this moment, but the ground here is absolutely drenched, and we're still looking at heavy raindrops take over that camera lens. When we look at some of the reports that are coming in, they're all up and down that I-95 corridor from Miami back towards Fort Lauderdale. This is over the last 3 hours. About over a dozen reports coming through, mainly for the flooding. Here's some of the most interesting ones. So we take you to North Miami. Miami-Dade Emergency Management is reporting that the fire department have made rescues to a home where there was 3 to 4 feet of rain that has made its way into the home. So there was going to be a water rescue there. We have another one here from North Miami Beach where water was on the flooded roadways, 6 to 12 inches up, stalling the cars, but also, you know, those benches where you're waiting for maybe some type of transportation, maybe a bus. Floodwaters over that too. So the bench seat covered in floodwater at this point in time. Take you a little farther to the south. We look at another area here just outside of Fort Lauderdale Airport. The floodways of the ramp control exits as well as the runways have been completely flooded with water. So we have a ground stop there at the airport. We have another one for Liberty City where we've been getting in on some social media reports of videos and pictures, 12 to 8 inches of water in Morningside Park. So these areas are vulnerable, as Ian has mentioned. They are going to unfortunately still be looking at more rain coming through, that influx of moisture that's going to be impacting them through tonight. Let's look at some of the top totals coming in right now. Sarasota, nearly a foot of rain within the last 72 hours. Siesta Keys, 10 inches there. We take you to Palm Harbor, 6.5, almost 7 inches there. Cypress Lake looking at almost 7 inches too. So we're well over that half a foot threshold for a lot of these areas, and more rain is going to be impacting them through the latter half of tonight. Here's the ground stop that I talked about for Fort Lauderdale. So we were looking at some delays earlier today. Now we look at about 169 delays, 254 cancellations. That takes us to about 51 disrupted flights so far. Going to keep watching those areas closely, as again the runway there out of Fort Lauderdale was dealing with some of the flooded water across the area. But take it to one Sunny Isles Beach, excuse me. This is right outside of that flash flood emergency zone. Look at this rain rate, nearly 3 inches of rain falling per hour. Ian has been tracking those. That's where we have the emergency in place. Look at the conditions. It's very low visibility. Winds are also picking up here. You can see that with the palm trees. Heavy raindrops, so that tropical moisture taking over at this point, and more rain is going to be on the way. We continue to watch the alert system. We still have a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings that are taking hold through at least the 5 o'clock hour for now, mainly out of parts of Florida, but this also encompasses back towards, say, the upper Midwest, where we've been watching too. So Ian, we're not only watching, areas in Florida, but also keeping a close eye back towards the upper Midwest. Florida is the top story right now simply because of these rain totals and the catastrophic conditions that are still at play.
Yeah, Nick was showing us some of those reports from close by to Sunny Isles Beach before Kiana. It was rain rates in excess of 5 inches per hour, and now that number up to 14 1/3 inches of rain. That's a 24-hour running total. That camera isn't all that far from places like Dania Beach last year.
Yeah.
They got over 20 inches.
Yeah, this kind of is reminiscent to last year. I know that last year was completely a little bit more devastating than this with the 25 inches out of Fort Lauderdale Airport, but this reminds me of that. And, I'm thinking about...
I think it probably reminds a lot of people that live there of that, too.
I'm thinking about the residents there, where I'm thinking about that teacher that you spoke to earlier in the show that kind of felt caught off guard. This is now going to be something that will take over the rest of this evening and maybe even the rest of this week.
Yeah, that's a good point to make, is that we had the signals because of the position of the parent weather features that are pumping up this tropical moisture, that this could happen, that this could be multiple days, this being worse than yesterday. But there are some signals that even into tomorrow, something like this, hopefully not nearly as intense, could develop. But the overall coverage of where we're seeing the storms develop, the tropical moisture moving across South Florida, that's still there. But in between now and then, we've got this of concern, which is a lot more rain. I'm sure if you're watching from home, if you have that Fox weather app handy, you're looking at the forecast over the next 90 minutes.
Yeah.
You can't reasonably expect this rain to back off much.
No, and even if you look back towards, say, the Gulf of Mexico side of Florida, you're starting to see that backfill here too. So a lot more heavier rain continuing to tap into that moisture as it funnels onshore across Southwest Florida and eventually filling in for areas across Southeast Florida.
Yeah, right along Alligator Alley. This is from the past 24 hours. That's 12 to 18 inches of rain as estimated by radar. And then you head south of that, up toward 15 inches south of I-75. It's even a little bit worse. But then today, the pocket, what's crazy about this, it's been so dangerous and so active in South Florida. We haven't even talked about what played out yesterday. Some of the pictures out of places like Siesta Key, Sarasota. Sarasota had its heaviest rain in a 1-hour stretch on record. Going back to 1972, Sarasota Bradenton International Airport had its 11th wettest day on record. That was yesterday. We haven't even discussed it because of what's happening down in South Florida, which is unfortunately more dangerous flash flooding.
Absolutely. And you take it back to a little bit of history, and you've spent some time in Florida. During your time there forecasting out of Tampa, has anything to this extent unfolded while you were there? Have you experienced something like this?
It happens, unfortunately, a lot, and it's always tropical moisture as the culprit of this, which is the message, and it's hard. It's the reason tropical systems have names.
Yeah,
they have names because it's easier to get the message across. When storms don't have structure like this, but some of the building blocks, the moisture is there, these impacts, I mean, who cares what you call this?
Exactly.
This is catastrophic flash flooding.
Yeah, it is. And unfortunately, it's catching people off guard. Like you said, if we had that name, that would have been probably helpful. But to your point, we were talking about this overall setup since last week, and it didn't matter if it had a name. We knew all of the characteristics of what could play out, and we're watching it, unfortunately, unfold in front of our eyes.
Yeah, what's played out is more than 14 inches of rain in a 24-hour span in Sunny Isles Beach. You've got a flash flood emergency ongoing for another 2.5 hours at minimum. This is what it looks like right now in downtown Miami.
We've watched this visibility kind of lose sight over the last, say, 20 minutes or so, too.
It's gotten worse again, and you can see why on radar, that pocket of even more heavy rain moving across I-95. The bay is out this way. There's cruise ships. This is where the Miami Heat play. That's the Casilla Center. You can't see any of it because the heavy rain continues to fall. The flooding is fairly widespread. It is a dangerous, it's life-threatening flash flooding occurring this evening in South Florida, and we've got more heavy rain still to go. Keep it right here with us on Fox Weather as we track more of these storms moving in. Heavy rain over the last several hours. A number of places we've seen a Doppler estimated foot plus of rain today. Incredible amounts of water, and it's leading to flooding all across the metro area, some big issues. We do have some severe weather breaking out across the upper Midwest. We've been watching that, but because of the flash flood emergency in effect with a catastrophic damage tag from the National Weather Service, that's for Miami-Dade and Broward counties, parts of them at least. That's why we've been covering this in detail, because the amount of rain that continues to work on in. This is Sunny Isles Beach, by the way, somewhere, call it halfway between Miami Beach and Lauderdale by the Sea. That's the running rain tally from the past 24 hours, 14.5 inches of rain in a day. That's why we have catastrophic flash flooding occurring in South Florida. And you look at the radar picture, yeah, there is more rain still to come. We've seen back building of these storms over the last several hours. So more or less, it's been pouring across some part of this region for the last 6 hours, right on through the afternoon, now into the early part of the evening. And by the way, we're into the evening rush. A lot of people trying to get home from work, and in some cases, not safe to do so right now. The National Weather Service, particularly within that flash flood emergency, saying if you don't have to be on the roads, please don't, because you don't know what you're going to encounter in this overall scenario. All those green boxes, those are all flash flood warnings. The blinking pink box is the flash flood emergency, which is radar and gauge indicated. Some of the amounts of water that have been measured in these areas, it's staggering numbers, but then especially across the southern part of the metro, more the Miami-Dade side and the Broward side, you look at what's coming upstream from you, it's more heavy rain, these thunderstorms that are rolling across the Everglades and are going to be moving through something like this. So keep in mind, these areas already have flash flood warnings issued. There is, in these places, several more inches of rain still in the forecast. So that's the big concern. It's still pouring right now. This is from the past 12 hours. These are radar estimates, and you see how they're correlated with some of these warnings that have been issued, especially right there inside the flash flood emergency. These are amounts 10 3/4 inches just from the past 12 hours time, and you consider that in some of these places, like in Miami, we had flash flooding yesterday. Our affiliate down in Miami, our Fox affiliate WSVN, they're out covering some of the flooding that's occurring. Let's dip in and see what they're seeing.
Near 8th Street. I'm going to have my photographer show you down the road. You can see right now 3 cars stranded in all of that standing water, a white BMW, a truck down there, and also a black BMW. We've seen other cars being towed, but heading this way, we saw even more road closures on I-95. We saw police blocking off Marine Boulevard. It caused heavy traffic on I-95, and also we saw even more and more cars getting out there. Again, we are under a flash flood emergency warning, meaning this is life-threatening. But back out here, I want to show you the mess. You can see right now a lot of flooding in this area, but take a look at those doors over there. Water now going into businesses and across the street. I'm going to have my photographer pan over to your right-hand side. You can see other owners have now put out sandbags, and that's what officials urge you to do, but also urging you to please stay inside if you can, because you want to avoid situations like this. You don't want to get stuck out here in standing water. Again, sending it back to you in the studio. I'm live in Fort Lauderdale. Jessica Vallejo, 7 News.
All right, Jessica.
All right, that was a look into our Fox affiliate down there in South Florida, WSVN, giving us a great vantage point at some of the flooding that's occurring within that flash.
Dorf doesn't just get worried, she gets busy.
With all the dogs in, I'm all packed up. I pretty much got everything in bins, and we're ready to go.
The downpour of April 2023 left the interior of her house 3 feet underwater, and she's already starting to see some water on this Wednesday afternoon.
My husband's like, oh, don't panic, but you know, I'm not going to be caught unprepared.
And around the Fort Lauderdale area, the rain is relentless and causing problems. Flooded out cars, just one result of treacherous driving conditions. The rain so torrential and water so deep in some areas, 95 shut down between Griffin and Oakland Park Boulevard.
I'm freaking out. I'm just like, you don't even know.
So you can see the mailbox right there. It gives you an indication of just how high this water is, but I can tell you where I'm standing, this is probably the least of it. I'm about 5'4", and in the middle of the street, the water is past my knees. So folks are concerned. We're starting to see some people take their stuff out of here. Some neighbors told us many folks did decide to leave. This area did have a lot of new drainage, millions of dollars worth of new pipes put into this neighborhood. And everybody has their fingers crossed that hopefully we won't see a repeat of April 2023. Reporting in Fort Lauderdale, Nicole Insalata, 7 News.
From downtown Fort Lauderdale now to Hallandale Beach.
7's Jessica Holly has been there, joining us with the flooding that she sees there.
A nasty and dangerous day in South Florida. Viewers sending in many videos of flooded roadways all around Hallandale Beach.
I was getting worried as the day went by.
One family with inches of water inside their home. At Gulfstream Park, people would return to their vehicles this afternoon to find water inside. At Dania Point Shopping Center, the parking lot is like a lake. The water up to the shopping cart baskets, and those who tried to drive through it calling for a tow. Both Dania Beach and Hallandale Beach shutting down city offices early and closing all parks and recreational facilities. They wouldn't be easily accessed anyway, as South Broward continues to be beaten by the nonstop rain. And as you hear the thunder rumbling there, this is an example of what we've been seeing today, these flooded intersections. This is at Diplomat Parkway and Atlantic Shores Boulevard, and the bridge leading to the beach is not accessible.